we have Dennis Proctor with us today on Key to You. And he is a senior executive in the healthcare industry, but also a musician. And oh my God, I can't wait to see him performing on a stage. I'm waiting for the next one. I'm excited for that, Dennis. But I will let Dennis introduce him a little bit about himself too here.
Sure. You're not going to make me perform right now, are you?
Yeah, I want to. Can we?
I did not bring my guitar. I have worked at my current company for 26 years, just over 26 years now. And you want me to focus on leadership?
I would definitely want you to focus on that because to me, I do want to know your leadership journey and what does authentic leadership really mean to you?
Sure. And we could talk about music too.
Oh, of course.
No.
Of course. And I want to know is there a linkage between the two?
There can be.
Okay.
And yeah, for me, there frequently is. And I think for me, authentic leadership is being your authentic self. And for me, it's also infusing your passions into what you do every day when you're leading a team. But I got my start in leadership in retail for two companies that don't exist anymore. I don't know if you remember Frank's Nursery and Crafts.
Yes.
They used to be all over the region.
Right.
So that's where I started as an assistant manager, first like stocking the shelves, but then eventually leading the team there. And then also ACO Hardware, which I think got bought out by Ace Hardware at some point, and those are still around.
Yeah.
But then I applied for customer service at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. And after a couple of years learning how to be a customer service rep, then I got the opportunity to lead a team of CSRs, and was always very pulled into the directions of technology, which is the direction you went.
Yeah.
But then also because I got my start on the business side and really learning about how to service members and providers, I think that side kept drawing me back in as well. So yeah, worked my way through leadership. I was a team leader, up through manager and director.
Did anything change, right? I mean, through the journey, did anything change from you being an individual contributor to now leading a team and to now leading a team of team?
Yep.
How did that transition really, was it an easy transition for you?
Was not easy. No, I think for me, it was having to learn about myself and my passions and what I wanted out of a career and life, and then figuring out how to put those things together. But no, it was not easy. I think it's very difficult to go from being an individual contributor to a leader, to find your way in leadership, to put your mark on it, but then also to give back and to serve a team of people that you're responsible for advocating for and for supporting. And in some cases, I was leading a team of people who were formerly my peers, which is one of the biggest challenges I think you can have. And I think you've done that before too.
I do.
Yeah.
It's quite different.
Yep.
I can certainly say that. But I do want to dive into this a little bit more later in my journey of the
Sure.
podcast. So what's a leadership decision that kept you up at night? And what would you do differently now?
Yeah, so tied to what I just said, actually, the first thing that comes to mind is when you go from being an individual contributor to a leader, especially a leader of former peers, you develop friendships, you develop relationships with people.
Right.
And the one decision that really kept me up at night, and I go back to over the years, is when I was leading a friend. Somebody who, and I don't mean leading a friend that I met through a professional relationship at work. That's worked out very well for me over my career. I mean, someone who I led, it started as a friendship, and then you start working with somebody professionally, and the way that you handle that situation, it's very difficult to navigate the challenges with that. And that really is one that I come back to pretty frequently, because I talked this person in to taking a role that I felt that they could handle. Right. But then I very quickly realized that because of our prior relationship as friends that something had changed. And because it didn't start in the professional environment, it was somehow so much more challenging to navigate. So that's one that really does stick with me. And I would have handled it differently. I wouldn't have put the person in the position that they were in at the time that we were in it as a team. And that's one I wish I could take back.
That makes me feel so good because I know I had this two times in my lifetime experience. I didn't learn from the first one. I handed for me it's slightly different, right? You know a person outside the company,
Yeah.
and you develop the friendship, and then you end up working for that person, did not pan out well.
Yep.
And that's where we need to figure out, because there should be a draw line of how you handle once you are in the building. You're the different person, you're playing a role.
I agree.
And when you're out, you're a family and you're a friend.
I think it can work in certain circumstances. I think you have to have expectations set up front. You have to define boundaries, and you have to have a shared understanding of what it means. Right. And this example, because we're talking about authentic leadership, I think it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because I really do feel like you need to blend the personal and the professional to be your authentic self. Right. But I think setting expectations and really establishing those boundaries up front is what makes that situation successful. Right. There's a reason that's a saying, right? Don't work with your family, don't work with your friends, is because it's kind of cliche at this point. It usually doesn't end well unless you establish those things up front.
That is so true. That is so true. So who believed in you before you believed in yourself?
You. No.
I'm a later part of the person. I always believe in you, even today and future. And how did that change everything?
My parents, and they instilled confidence in me because they did believe in me, I think, before I believed what I was capable of. But I definitely had early leaders that believed in me and trusted me at points when I didn't even understand what I was in store for. But one leader in particular that I met over 20 years ago, who I'm still friends with today, who is now an executive, flat out told me, like, you can do more than you're doing, and I believe in you, and said it that bluntly, and then gave me every opportunity when I didn't see it. So that means everything, and it's something that I try to do for other people, and it's something I feel so strongly about, is that you have to contribute in the same way. I believe so much in mentorship, developing people, and I participate in those opportunities any chance I get.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's lucky to have somebody like that in your life.
Yes.
In your journey. And I do want to share one thing now. When I kickstarted this podcast, you're one of them who said you got to be consistent. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how many viewers, doesn't matter how this is going to go. Be consistent. One day it will kickstart the way you dreamt about it. That means a lot to me. So I just wanted to share that.
I'm so glad.
So tell me about a time you completely failed as a leader, and what did that teach you?
This is going to give me nightmares.
We all fail, don't we? And I still feel in some spaces that I fail because of, how two things will matter, or maybe three. Manage up, manage down, and manage peer. And managing peer places where I feel like, I'm failing, not in every space, but I'm failing. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I'll just, to be honest, I fail all the time. And I think you have to take chances, and you have to put yourself out there, and you have to consistently show up, which is what you and I talked about, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't feel like you're making progress, because progress is not linear. It goes up and down, and sometimes you can't see it when you're showing up every day. But then when you step back and you look, you say, oh, I'm different than I was before, a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. Yeah, because you can just. So for me, the question was what? It was about a failure. So I'll pick one. Yeah. There's definitely there have been times, and I can think of one in particular, where I prioritized someone who had talent
Mm-hmm.
over the chemistry of the team and that cohesion that you want, that you want to create, that culture that you want to create. And I can think of one instance in particular where I stuck with somebody a little bit too long because of what they could technically bring to the team. And I could only see later that it actually set us so far back in the relationships and the culture side of things. And so that's another one where I think, yeah, I learned a lot from that. I won't do that again. But sometimes you have to go through those situations before you realize.
You know, you answered to one of the question that I had. Do you want to have a high performer in your team versus a team member? I mean, even though you know he's a toxic
Yeah.
high performer, or you want to have like a person who's not a highest performer, but then he knows how to bring, and he or she knows how to bring the team together.
Yeah, I'm pretty persistent. I can be stubborn, and I like to think you can have it both ways. But you have to know where to draw that line. And there is a point where the trouble somebody is bringing to the team, and like you said, it can be toxic. It's doing so much damage to the culture and to the relationships that it's not worth it. And that is so I will always prioritize the team over an individual high performer.
That is so beautifully said. And I'm a believer of pick a person from a right attitude, the person with the right attitude, and train that person.
I agree.
Rather than just, having a toxic high performer. That was good. So what is the biggest lie we all tell about leadership that you wish people would stop believing?
So I think that people believe that you have to have a certain leadership persona, and that you can't infuse your personal self into being a leader. I think that's a lie people tell themselves, that I can separate. I do think that you can have your private life and your professional life, but for me, I think I have to infuse myself into what I do. I have to really love what I'm doing. Have to have fun doing it. And for me, it is personal. It is very now. When I say it's personal, I don't mean that I walk around and I take things personally. But what I mean is I bring my personality and myself to what I'm doing, and people who I work with are going to get to know me, and I'm going to try to get to know them. Some people don't like that. They wall themselves off, and that's fine. You can't control and you can't change who people are. But I think that people tell themselves that I can wear one mask in a professional setting, and I think that when people get to know each other and really seek to understand where they're coming from, that's when the best work gets done.
I so agree with that. And that's why I really like you, because you come with who you are. You show yourself fully, right?
Yep.
And what I've seen is people, depending on where they're at, what you're talking to your team, or you're talking to your peers, or you're talking to your leaders, you should be consistent in how you show yourself. And even for people to trust you. And that is also one characteristics of authentic leader, is what I would say. And I see not many people have that. So that was
people can see through it. They know when somebody's phony. They can tell. And so if you're not bringing that, you're going to have more difficulty.
That is true.
Building those relationships and working with people. And I just, you and I have talked about before, like there's this whole social part of business, right? And sometimes it goes too far, and it's like, do I really want to be doing dinners and lunches and golfing and all of this? And I don't want to do all that stuff. I'm a horrible golfer. But there is something too, when you get to know people, it makes the work easier. Because you know that person, you know what they're looking to accomplish, you understand why, and you can help find situations that are win-win for everybody, where you wouldn't if you just show up and say, okay, let's get down to business. I've had team members that say, can we stop joking around and like just get to business? And there is a time for that, but it's actually making the other work easier when you get to know people's personalities.
I had to learn that. I had to really learn that. I'm still learning, and thank you for encouraging me in that space. But I was one of those. Let's get to the business.
Yeah.
But then now I know to give that space to know each other
Yeah.
before you get.
There has to be that
Yeah,
balance.
there has to be that balance. Totally agree. And so you have to choose between. Oh, we already talked about this. Is a high performer versus. We talked about that already.
Yes.
So if your team described your leadership style when you're not in a room, what would worry you the most on what they would say about you?
This whole interview is just to give me anxiety. Is that? First of all, I wouldn't really worry. Like, and
I wouldn't.
Thinking of that scenario, right? Like, you can go to the worst case and say, well, what would they say? Would they make fun of me? Would they say I'm annoying? I think the truth is I don't really care, because I just try to be myself. I think they would probably say that sometimes I can move too fast, and that I get an idea and I am all on it. I'm ready to go. Let's move. And that's something that I really do try to think about, is that, balancing what they have on their plates and all that they're asked to tackle, without me throwing some new idea on them. But that does tend to happen with me, as I get really passionate about a new idea, and I want to go, and I want to have that action. Right. So I think that they would say that. I think that, to be honest with you, I think over time, when you're building a team, as time goes by, you get more and more say on what that team is like, and and you have more influence over the culture, because the people that are performing and clicking with you personally, and then also clicking with each other, they stick around. And the longer you're there, that just becomes your legacy, right? It's like you're building the environment that you want to be in. Whereas early on in your career, you don't have as much influence over that. But I would say probably earlier versions of teams that I was on, they probably didn't click with my personality. They were probably like, well, this guy stopped talking about himself. Well, this guy, he doesn't have to tell me everything that he's doing outside of work or what. Yeah, but it's just the realities of working with different people in different situations. But I do think that gets easier as you have influence over your work situation and the people you choose to work with. And the further I get into my career, the more I want to surround myself with people who have like passions, positive energy, and want to be doing things that are.
So if you were to choose a leader, what, mainly from an authentic leadership perspective, if you want to choose a leader under your organization, what are the key characteristics that you would look for? I mean, just a blending of a few things that what would you say?
So I think it's there's a term, radical candor, like people who can just speak their mind, but do it in a way that's professional and compassionate, but they're being sincere. And it ties back to the whole topic of authentic leadership. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking for someone with leadership courage. So someone that doesn't shy away from a difficult situation, and also isn't intimidated by roadblocks and challenges. So one thing that we run into frequently is the first way that you think you're going to go about tackling something is not the way. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So you have to have that persistence and the critical thinking and problem solving to say, what if we did it this way? What's another way? How else could we put the pieces together? So I really look for that, and I look for people who not only embody that, but that can bring that out of other people. That to me is really inspiring. And because they bring it out in me too.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like where you're focusing on. Are you focusing on the problem or are you focusing on the solution? So
Yes.
you are mainly looking at the people who are focusing on the solution and
On
getting
the
things done.
solution and the focusing on what could we do versus why we can't do it. And that's something that, again, as you build the team and you surround yourself
Yeah.
with people that you work well with and that you want to be around, you get more say in that. So I tend to build my team out with people who focus on the what could be versus the why can't we. Yeah.
Makes sense. So, what is something you learn from the person you lead who has the least power in the organization?
I learn something every single time I sit with somebody who is taking phone calls from our customers.
Yeah.
And I do that regularly. I make it a regular part of my routine
Yeah.
to sit side by side. And that this is with employees within our buildings, but then
Yeah.
also all over the world, wherever we do business. It's the very first thing on my agenda is to be able to sit with somebody who is doing the work, who is talking to our customers every day. And what I learn is every single one of them has a great idea that you haven't heard. And it's what keeps me going. And it's what grounds me and flashes me back to when I started my career with the company.
Yeah.
I had those same
Yeah.
thoughts and ideas,
Right.
and I was the one that wasn't heard,
Yeah.
and so when I think about what my job is now, I get to influence and act on all of those ideas I have.
Yeah.
But I don't have the best ideas because I'm not closest to
The
the work that's
reality,
being
yeah.
done. So you have to find a way to tie yourself to that and to get close to the people that are, and then establish trust so that they open up to you.
Yeah.
And so I learn something every single time I do that. Something that
That's
we
the best.
didn't consider in decision making or product design or some policy,
Right.
and it snaps me back out of the leadership role and back into, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing
Right.
this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, something that I learned, I do a public speaking. I'm a coach for kids who are like 9 to 12-year-old every Saturday. When I see that, I look at the kids and I see who's not speaking, who's not raising their hands, and tapping into them to speak up.
Yes.
So that is so important because they'll have the best ideas because they don't want to, or they're shying away. They don't want to say anything. Oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't know how it's going to come
Yeah.
across. So I tap into them, and that similar concept have to be implemented even in the workplaces. Where
Absolutely.
because not all will be outgoing or like ready to raise their hand, but they'll have the best ideas.
And you have to establish trust and credibility.
Right.
When I've been to contact centers around the world, just because you ask the question doesn't mean that somebody's going to answer it for
That's true.
a variety of reasons.
Right.
It could be because they're intimidated.
Yeah.
It could be because they don't think you're going to listen.
Mm.
It could be because they've raised the same
What's the
concern
value?
over and over again, and
Right.
it's nobody has acted on it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I try to keep in mind is, how do I build some kind of trust with this
Mhm.
person so that they understand that, no, their voice is important and they do have power to influence and change things.
That's awesome.
And for me, I'm fortunate enough that I did come up through the ranks, so I can tell my own story and explain that I was in their shoes, and these are the frustrations I had, or
Yeah.
these are the and that usually will work, and people will let down their guard, and they'll be a little bit more trusting in those situations. But it also goes back to consistency. You have to
Yeah.
follow through. You have
Yeah.
to provide feedback. You have to close that loop so people know that you're not only are you listening, but you're also doing something
Applying
about
that, yeah.
what they're sharing.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. So, what is the weirdest or most unconventional thing you do as a leader that actually works?
I sing to my employees.
Oh,
No,
love it.
I don't really sing. No, I probably have, but no, that's not my
Oh,
answer.
but that's so beautiful, though. You never sang
I
for
make
us.
my employees listen to my music.
Mhm.
No, so I think more recently, it's really doing less. So, and what I mean by that is there's a book that my team read recently called Essentialism. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
I think it's by Greg McEwen.
Okay.
And his whole philosophy is we do too much. We're focused on too much. And when you're trying to do everything, you're doing all of these things
At the same time.
very poorly. And you're not making any progress.
Right.
And so the book walks through this idea of essentialism, which is decide on what the priorities are, do fewer things, and do those really well. And so that's, I think,
I should read that book.
it seems like common sense when I put it
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
but it does, when you talk about it in a professional setting where we're expected to do everything all the time and everything is number one priority, it is unconventional, and it does take a lot of convincing of others to get them to really understand that the way that we're doing this is not working, and it's not sustainable, and people are burning out.
Yeah.
So I think it's get very clear about priorities and do less stuff. I think is
do
that
it with utmost quality.
Yes. I think the other thing though, Shruthi, is just and we've talked about it a lot through this discussion, is just having the personal conversations as much as people are comfortable, right? Like I'm not talking about prying or getting into territory that people aren't comfortable with. I'm talking about letting people show up and just be themselves and genuinely trying to understand what's going on and what they care about as much as they're willing to share. Because I think that is something that moves me, is beyond the wanting to do fun work and work with good people. It's just wanting to understand people and get to know them.
And you know what? I'm a fan of Brené Brown and all her books. And one thing that she talked about is she always tried to fit into the group, because she always felt odd man out and not really know how to, and like trying to fit in, only to realize I'm gonna be myself.
Yeah.
And that transition, really, she had to work through that transition to become a person like, I'm gonna be me. I don't care about like how to fit into somebody else's world. So that was so powerful for me, and I always have this social conscious when I go in. So I'm still figuring it out on how to be me, just me. This is me. This is how I eat, or this is what I drink, and this is how I sit, and this is the topic I do. I'm still figuring that out, but then that is something that I feel is also so important um, to be that person and to allow the other person to see who you are, so they can trust you. They can build that trust with you. So.
We're all still learning that, by the way. That was my leadership epiphany when I first became a leader at my current company. I very much tried to emulate others that I saw around me.
Right.
I just tried to model myself after other leaders that were in the role that I was in.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the better answer to a failure that sticks out, because I learned so much from it. I face planted so hard. Like I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't.
Right.
And everybody saw through it.
Yeah.
And I think because I was so young at the time too, like one quote that sticks in my head, I had an employee, who's so much older than me, said, "I have shoes older than you," which is hilarious, and probably was true. Yeah, wow. She goes, "I have shoes older than you," and I'm like, this is a lot to overcome, right? Because I have zero credibility with this team, and I'm also trying to be somebody that I'm not.
Yeah.
They're seeing through it, and they're just eating me alive. And so finally, like that was the epiphany, was this is not working. Try anything but this. And the what I tried that worked was, I'm just going to be honest with them. I'm going to admit when I don't know something. I'm going to admit when I need their help and I need to know more. And I'm going to say, you know what? I don't know everything. So, but here are the things that I can bring, and here's what I do know. And when I started approaching it that way, it completely changed.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So I think this is my few things, but do you have any last words for my audience about authentic leadership? And what is one thing that they need to take away from this, session from us?
I think we covered a lot.
Definitely.
I think it's so you said you're still finding your way. I think
I'm still finding my way.
but I think it's everybody needs to understand
Yeah.
that we all are, and that it really is a journey, and it's not a linear path to improvement in any area, but especially this. But I think it's really get to know yourself,
Yeah.
what you care about, what your values are, and you have to show up consistently,
Yeah.
whether people are watching or not, and just stand behind the person that you know that you are. And
Yeah.
and my experience has been when you do that regularly, it pays off. It works out
Definitely.
more often than it doesn't.
Definitely.
And when it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's usually a sign that it's not the right fit for
Mm,
you. That's a situation that doesn't
Yeah.
match with your values and your
Yeah.
beliefs. So
Yeah.
that's you learn something from that too. So I think it's that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really like it. So I want to summarize it in two or three things that what you said is like, number one, be you. And I know it's not easy, but still be you, right? And the second thing is be consistent and show up, be consistent, because that is something that I'm learning myself. And it became very evident in how, in our session too, that one is carrying yourself to who you are and letting other people see who you are is number one. And number two, being consistent. And number three, repeat. I would say repeat, right?
Back to consistent, right?
So back to consistency. So that was wonderful, Dennis. I really enjoyed this session with you,
Me
and
too.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here with
Yeah, it was
us
great.
today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Shruthi.